Mike, are you there?
Pastor Paul. All right, now we're rolling.
Okay, hang on a second because you're not in my headset. So hang on.
All right.
Try that. Mike?
Yep.
Okay, can you guys hear him out there? I think they can now.
Am I good to go?
I think you're good to go.
Okay.
Mike, I'm sorry about that. This phone
Don't worry
here,
about it.
yeah, this phone here is not operating. I can't call or receive, and it's saying to me it needs an upgrade. They did that to me last week. All right, I'm sorry. All right, Mike. So how you doing tonight?
Good. It's getting busy out there, isn't it, Pastor?
It sure is. It really is. And we've got a lot of situations right now. I don't know which one's the biggest. But let's talk about before we even talk about what's going on in the Middle East or in Europe or Texas. Let's just talk about what's going on in the heavens. I mean, the sun has become extremely volatile, has become extremely aggressive. And according to reports, it wasn't supposed to happen till late 2025. Is this just a warm up of what's coming?
Oh, yeah. You know what? That's so funny. They would, if you found that in an article,
Yes.
we talked about the off timing of their solar maximums, right?
Yeah.
Not to discredit them or anything, but to kind of emphasize to people that they're not going to be informed by mainstream scientists. Even you know what, Pascal, is so ironic. You have an entire group of it. I'm talking about millions of individuals who do not pay attention to mainstream scientists. They don't discredit scientists, right? But
Right.
they do understand that they're not going to get their information from them
Right.
because they're bound, they get paid by those who are established, and they just can't come out with that type of information. So what's happening now is that folks that have an understanding of the solar system and what's happening with the sun and all is off timing, flares, so on and so forth, they're really starting to talk about this, which is why Elon Musk, he had that little article came about regarding his bunker. That was in direct relation to the sun. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that was
Yeah.
what it was about.
Oh, yeah. And not only him. See, it's not for, there's Elon Musk, quite a few others. They're not listening to mainstream science. They already know what the deal is. They know what the deal is. And that was Elon Musk showing the world, we're going to have a problem and you might want to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me go ahead and break this news to you. You ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Within the next 3 years, they expect an absolute, uh, I guess you may say, conflagration over the face of the entire earth because of the sun and because of war, right?
So what
Within the next 3 years, totally consumed. They keep saying it's going to be totally consumed within the next 3 years on on the top side, right?
yeah.
And so they are they're actually telling people, NATO, they're starting to tell people, Germany, they're telling people, telling their people, uh, get your supplies, you know, make sure that you can stay in a fortified place and get your supplies together now. They're telling them do it now.
Are they saying this, Mike, because it will not be livable on the top side of the planet?
Where you're going to have, here's what they expect. They expect war to consume the face of the earth at the exact same time. Solar activity is going to be absolutely devastating.
That's crazy.
That's what they expect in the next 3 years. But I'm not talking about an article. That's not what I'm
No.
talking about. They're actually having public speeches and they're warning people to get their things together now. They're telling them, get it together now. And unfortunately, it's going to be a lot of people who, because they cite no immediate evidence, right? Because they, I don't know, maybe they like the world too much. They're going to miss it. But here's a key: it's going to become quite chaotic, and we're talking about developments that are beginning now, right? Right now. right now. And so here we are. They said within the next 3 years,
Yep. Yep.
that's 2026 is the date that they said if you don't have anything ready by 2026, you're not going to get it ready because you'll be consumed by that point. And that means if they say within the next 3 years, and from what they continue to say, what's been happening, people are going to begin to notice breakouts of various conflicts all over the face of the earth.
Is that partly
China is telling their people the same thing.
really?
Yes, North Korea told their people to get ready now.
Yeah. Yes, they did for war.
Yeah.
Yes.
All the
Sweden.
nations are doing this now. They're doing it now.
Sweden just basically has been accepted into NATO, but they're telling their people get ready for war, get ready
Right
now.
now. Right now.
Russia's been
Right
telling
now.
theirs for 4 or 5 years. And the
The
Middle
call is
East
going out in Europe. The call is going out in Europe. The UK, right?
Yep.
The UK is doing the same thing. They're saying do it now. Unfortunately, the USA, we're going to be the only people who will not say a thing.
Why? Do we not love our people? Do we not love?
No, it's because we're tied up in other things.
Yeah.
I think that this political show that people are seeing is it really does tie people up, and it's really taking the attention away from more important matters. I mean, much more important matters. It's not going to matter who's in the White House when missiles are striking every single piece of the East and West Coast. It's not going to matter who's in the White House
it's not
when
gonna
solar
matter.
activities blow out our power grid. Right now they're worried about the power grid. They're getting money together. They're about to have a $10 trillion package again to go out all over everywhere they can to start to fortify some of these hardened structures. They're rechecking military bases. That has to be done by the end of by February 11th, I believe it is. Right, so military bases have to be checked, certified to operate off the grid.
So is this battle what we're seeing is it a lot over resources? I mean, worldwide now and internally, we got games. We got a circus going on in Washington. We got people playing political games and gotcha and let's reinvestigate this and investigate that. And now we got 27 states that are standing with the governor of Texas over the border. I mean, this is getting serious, isn't it?
Yeah, and they already know it's going to get worse. Let's talk about resources for a minute, though.
Okay.
That is a public opinion, right? It's a public opinion. What country needs another country's resources? What you see being shipped now is not fuel, it's not oil, it's not petroleum. The USA has its own oil. In the Middle East, in the Middle East, they're spending about $400 million a day on nonsense because they don't need anybody else's oil. They hold it back from Israel, of course, but Israel does not need anybody's oil either. They're sitting right atop a big, source of that.
Right.
And when it comes to minerals in the earth like lithium and other minerals, South America, of course they have a lot, but so do other places. And for the most part, people have exactly what they need, right?
Yeah.
So, but so long as the people believe they're having a war over petroleum, so long as that's the public narrative, nobody ever looks into the truth of things, right? Because we've gone a lot further than that. It's kind of like this thing with AI. AI is so misunderstood right now, and people don't. For example, people still believe that AI is coming on the scene, right?
Right. It's already here. It's already in control.
People have already listen. They've known an AI derived character for 5 years. They've known him. All of your audience, they know a character that is not a real person. It's an AI derived character, and they don't know who it is, right? So they already know that.
They know it works. They know that
and the robots.
They're creating. You're saying they're creating an AI individual, and
They already did that.
And they've
They
done
already
it,
did it.
and we've been fooled for 5 years. The
He's
public's
been
been
on
fooled.
television. Yeah, he's been on television for 5 years, and nobody has said a word because nobody knows who it is. Nobody programs it, right? They work with it just like they would a person.
Yeah.
So people can forget that. Plus, the role it has, for example, CDBCs, right?
Yep.
It's coming regardless whether people like it or not. And the difference between that and everything else, for example, Bitcoin has somewhat of you have a number. You're a number with Bitcoin, right? With CDBCs, the way it's set up now, it's your signature on there, right? So it is programmable money. And what I mean by that is, and it's going to hit everywhere, it's unavoidable. They will dictate what you can and cannot do with that money based on, right, what's, trending with the world, this, that, and the other.
Right.
One of the real reasons they need this in place is so control is number one, but also accountability, right? They don't need, money is a made up system, right?
Yeah.
We can never forget. Most people think money is divine for some reason. It is not. Most of the money that flows around the world is useless. It's useless. It is backed by nothing. And so it is, in fact, a control mechanism to control who can do what with resources, but most importantly, it controls who goes where, right? Who can live where, who can be on top, who's on the bottom, this, that, and the other. So it's a structural control mechanism that is made up. The people, they operate with that stuff. The digital money is going to further that control to absolute accountability is what it's going to do.
CBDC is central banking digital currency.
Uh-huh.
And it's going to do away with fiat money, right? I mean, that's gone.
Our entire way of thinking about money, right, is going to change, because if you think about it right now, back in the day, bartering and all that stuff between nations, that was a big deal, right? That's not what money is based on now. Right now, the highest commodity is information. It is not oil.
Data.
Right?
Data. You're right.
That's right. That's right. Because whoever has the information can manage any other country, this, that, and the other. So that's your number one commodity. Everything else is just something that people do, basically. So we have really gone into a new era of existence where everything that was old is dead, is gone. They don't use it anymore. The countries are not based upon some of these older ideas. And because AI has been implemented and is doing some things. It's doing some, number one, 7 cures to cancer have already come out, right? They're being they're going under their trials already. They have the AI doctors. They've been on the scene for 2 months now, right? They're doing marvelous things that nobody could ever do.
Wow.
They have they're manufacturing some of the new cars that will blow your mind, and they are totally AI designed, right? And 3D printed metal, 3D printed metals. No such thing as broken or replacement parts. You just have a new one printed out and
3D printed
refit
metal.
it on your vehicle.
3D
That's right.
printed metal.
That's right.
Wow.
The whole car, the whole factory. Not one person is in the factory. Not one. So it's not going to take existing jobs away. You're going to have a new fleet of cars coming out on the scene. Oh, and by the way, they started that December, I believe it was December 5th. Factories were done by January 1st. The first cars go on the market in another 2 days. So anyway, that's how fast it is, right?
Right.
And they're flawless. You're talking about efficiency and speed and all this stuff, zero emissions, twice the gas mileage of any car out there. This, that, and the Elon Musk does not like that idea. He has no choice but to start converting or catch up to what these guys are doing with his stuff. But everything is changing quickly, and technology right now is outpaced everything else, right? There's no way we can catch back up with it either, because they've already handed over control to AI in quite a few areas. Weaponry, right?
Yeah,
your lifestyle, everything is being developed by AI. So completion dates of AI the projects that began the beginning of this month will be done by the end of this month. That's how fast things are moving. right? They have a Brink battery, a battery right now that AI developed, and it's not made like any other traditional battery. It looks like spaghetti, right? But instead of charging your car once every 2 days, you charge your car once a month. You charge it for about 10 minutes. That charge will last you for about a month. That's type
Wow.
of efficiency. So
Yeah.
they're not worried about solar panels are going to be out of the window. Turbines are going to be out of the window. All
Because
that
they won't need
technology,
them. They'll
it's
just use the
essentially
battery.
outdated.
Yeah.
It's essentially outdated. The same, pound for pound, like a car engine, 370 horsepower engine is pretty heavy, right?
Yep.
You can essentially put that in a backpack now, right? Two of those you can put in a backpack,
You mean the
and it's
engine that's that powerful? It can be
yes, 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 yes,
condensed
yes.
about like that.
That does not use fuel. It doesn't use fuel, right?
What's it
It's not
using?
going to explode. It's not going to do all those things. So this is what AI has made possible, right? It's a reaction. It's a mineral reaction, but a controlled reaction where there's, the efficiency of it is so incredibly high. And so, of course, we're going to fit it to standards that we have, right? But you're talking about power that's just unbelievable. A 50 pound engine can have enough horsepower, the same horsepower as a Cumming engine in a diesel truck, right? So that's what you're looking at, a 50-pound engine. So things are about to get a lot different. Now that comes with great wars, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it does.
Um, because right now, the major factor is this: nobody wants to put up with America's control anymore.
No, they're
No
tired
more.
of us being on top. That's
That's right.
right. They're tired
That's
of
right.
it.
And so now they're starting to retaliate. Do you know why? Because AI is allowing them to become just as advanced as we are. So that's the war front. And they're
Yep.
not going forward anymore. Nobody's gonna, talk them down or anything. Um, the second thing, Pastor Paul, is we have a new problem on the scene. Wars are coming. 3 years, they estimate that I'll say it again. They estimate 3 years this world's going to be consumed by war. Consumed, and that means every place on the earth is going to be touched by war.
Yeah.
Every place, right? This was a serious conversation this weekend. It is a serious conversation at NATO. It is a serious conversation with China. It's a serious conversation with Russia, right? And now people are throwing money behind it. So when they start coming up with $10 trillion packages to do things, it's serious. Okay, it's serious.
So is AI? So AI, and it's not just only AI, but AI and the need for certain resources and the need for power, the need to have the advantage through data, through whatever it may be, that there's this race going on and war is going to break out. And we already see it. It's already broke out. And it's just starting. It's just barely starting to spread as different nations go for maybe pay back old scores, or they go for because of ideology. They take advantage of someone else, and when they see other wars breaking out, they figure nobody's watching, nobody's going to deal with us, so let's go do it. I mean, this is like
Well,
it catches on, doesn't it?
have you noticed the weapons that they're using on the battlefield? Right, they're not normal. Right, they're quite emboldened. Um, for example, how many
They're using
soldiers?
laser. They're using laser now, and
Yes, they are. Yes,
yeah.
they are. Pastor Paul, things are happening on the battlefield that you just can't tell anybody. Can't tell. There's no, people wouldn't be able to comprehend that very well. So let's just say that people have pulled the stops out on what they're doing in war. It is brutal and it's inescapable and it's deadly and dangerous. And it is not like a conventional war that people are used to. It is not. And it's costing lives, American lives, those in other nations, their lives. We lost quite a bit in the last 3 or 4 days. And when I say quite a bit, I'm talking about hundreds. And I'm talking about us in the USA. So it is brutal. That brutality is spreading, right? The casualties are mounting. This is becoming wider, a bigger problem. I think that people should be aware of this and not deceive to think that somehow things are hunky dory, and they are not.
So the media is not reporting this, or
They can't.
the
They
Pentagon
cannot.
is not releasing this.
And the Pentagon will not, because all that would do is incite further violence within this civil war faction we have within the USA. Think
Right.
about that. If people found out that and it really doesn't matter who's in leadership, that's what people are going to find out. They're going to find out that war doesn't care who's in office. And now that we have an AI component, right, leadership is never going to be the same, right? In fact, um, in fact, whoever's appointed leader, if you like him, pray for him, because if you don't pray for him, that person is likely to be taken out. Um, I know I certainly would not vote for anybody I'm not willing to pray for. So hopefully people are praying for the leaders. Anyway, yes, basketball, the wars they're already spreading, right? Um, Alaska's going to become a problem. Spain's going to become a problem this week. The thing's spreading all over the place. And it's gonna,
So you see NATO and Russia and maybe some of Russia's allies involved in a war in Europe. Do you see that coming?
Yeah, NATO announced yesterday. You know what they said?
No.
We've got to get everybody ready because we will be at war with Russia. That's what they said. You can't get any plainer than that.
Yeah.
Right?
And Russia has been telling their people we are going to war with NATO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
UK was saying the same thing.
United States. Yeah.
Yep, same thing. So everybody has this consensus. China knows war is coming, right? China's getting their people ready, and they know they're going to war. So all these years that we sat, pretty idle, and everything was back and forth, and people called, the wolf on things, and it didn't happen, and people are complacent with things coming and going. This is not the season. 2024 is, it's already ramped up to be something that was a little unexpected for a lot of folks, right? And but it's escalating quickly, and it will not be in a measured type of way, right? It's not going to be that way. So
let's talk about this then. So as war and as the weapons of war and as AI technology advances so rapidly, and deception is going to be all over the place, we also are dealing with this binary system that's moving in about the same time as the Earth is going into this total. So what do you see in that? I mean, I know you dropped a lot of unbelievable information in the webinar, but give us just a little bit about what this is going to do to our solar
look at the weather.
system.
Look at the weather.
Oh, the weather's
look at the
crazy.
Weather.
Yeah.
But just look at it right now. We just had some really cold temps.
Right.
Now it's warm again. It's about to get cold again. You know it's about to get cold again, right? We're having snow and floods. Unpredictable. The weather people are finally starting to admit that their weather models are insufficient in keeping up with it. The National Weather Service has just implemented some of the first AI module assistants to go with some of the modeling and forecasting for both Euro and the USA models. So they can't keep up with it. Right, it's too erratic.
Is it because it isn't acting the way it always did before? The jet streams are different. The ocean currents are different. The atmospheric compression is different. They don't know what they're doing.
Not only are they different, right, but the trending of these patterns is highly exotic or erratic, very difficult to trace. Some people still have a feel for it, which is why it's important that Christians with experience really start looking at this stuff and let they're tuned to it, right? That's why I can I don't get it right all the time, but I'm as far as having a forecast or something like that, I get closer than they do with without a simulation, because you can feel which way weather patterns are going. I know that we're about to have a jet stream reversal. We know that the Earth is about to alter its rotation. Right. We know that the poles of the Earth, right, that we know we're gonna sit sideways for a time, right? So
what? Sideways? You mean we're only gonna go
sunlight, the wind, everything.
That's gonna mess stuff up. I mean, that's gonna totally change weather patterns. And
that's right. Temperate forest regions are gonna become arid and dry regions. Places like Arizona are gonna be forest areas, right? Mushy swamps, things like that. So we're gonna have a reversal of things, right? It's gonna uproot our way of life. We're still gonna be here, right? But it's just gonna that's gonna wreak havoc. What are the? We know that
What
with
about the coastlines? What about the coastlines? I mean,
no guarantee they're going to alter. They're going to change.
yeah,
You know what? All governments were talking about that last week. They
really.
already know about that, so nobody should be surprised when they start pulling certain research firms away from all coastlines.
Do you see, Mike, mankind becoming savages again? I mean, almost like
Yes,
barbarians.
yeah. Hence the bunkers. You said it. That was great,
Okay.
right?
All right.
The bunkers will protect those who have them from people.
Yeah. Okay.
Let me give you a visual of something. Imagine, right? Imagine most of the police force gone.
Well, you would
Imagine
have total
military,
chaos. You'd have total.
imagine a lot of military forces gone, right? They're
Yeah.
gone. Imagine states like Texas, Utah, and those places have actually instituted their own types of government. Imagine regions of the USA negotiating with other regions, right? But with a sharp decline in the population. Just imagine that. This is likely how it's going to be. It's likely how it's going to be, which means you're going to find a lot of people abandoning what they're doing, and it's not going to make sense. But they're just going to abandon things, right? You know, some very disturbing statistics have come out. Do you know
Okay.
that childbirth has decreased? They say that you know, based on numbers are coming back, I believe it's 1 out of every 5 males, I believe, will have their hand in new offspring. It used to be 4 out of every 5. Now it's just one. But that number is sharply declining. They project by the middle of this year, 1 out of every 10 males, right, will contribute to birth. The decline of babies is just incredible, and there's something happening with children. They're passing away quickly,
Is this the
Pastor Paul.
food that we're eating, or
No, no,
is the water, or is it?
no. This is you can't see it as just one thing.
Okay.
You can't
Okay.
say that, right?
Okay.
Some things are,
Well, the Bible
you know, there
says
are a few things, but
the Bible
you're
does talk
looking.
about, Mike, that there's a time coming when there'll be 7 women to every man, and they will cling to 7 women will cling to one man, just if for no other reason, so they can have his name. That sounds to me like a society that maybe there's only one man fertile out of every 7. There's only one guy's actually able to provide. I don't know what that means. I mean, or all the others are dead. It's a very
Well,
interesting.
there's going to be a sharp decline in the populace basketball. It's already starting to happen. It's just not, people are so busy, they don't really notice these things. Plus, we have some pretty big magnetic events we have to deal with in the body. The human body is tuned to the magnetosphere, right?
Okay.
Something happens to our magnetosphere, something is going to happen to us, right? It will cause people to become highly militant in their thinking, violent, enraged, all sorts of things.
What is that
There's
again? What causes that again?
That's a magnetosphere.
Oh, the magnetosphere. Okay.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
it changes, because your brain operates within the confines of a very stable system that the magnetosphere provides. If that's gone, right, then your brain is not going to function properly. It can't transmit signals properly. You're going to have declines in certain parts of the brain. Your frontal lobe will start to collapse within on itself, and that is responsible for, you know, keeping you calm.
Well,
It'd be like a woman without estrogen, right?
yeah, yeah.
Now, if you take that chemical out of a woman, nobody can talk to that woman. Nobody. Just by a simple hormone, right?
Right, right.
At low levels in a woman can turn that woman into a beast, basically. And they can't control it. No more than they can control tears sometimes at certain points in their lives. So chemicals can largely impact the body, right?
Yeah.
The only way around that is spiritual control. But here's the problem, Pascal. If people cannot spiritually control themselves now, right, because their body is a vehicle, and one day they're going to get a new vehicle, but They were born in this vehicle, the body, and a lot of people believe they are that body. Right? Newsflash: nobody is their body.
No,
That's one thing. But they're letting their bodies dictate what they do. You know, in other words, they are trying to fulfill the desires of the body. Now, people who do this, they have no spiritual control over what their body feels. For example, if you're having pain, why scream? That's not going to help the pain. So anytime somebody ever feels pain, try not to scream and watch what your body does. Your body's going to it's not going to like that. Until you do one thing, Pastor Paul.
Why is screaming out? Is that a mechanism of release?
Well,
to kind of release
that's
the
what
pain.
that's
think
what we
that?
do. No, that's just what we do.
Okay.
Right? That's what we do, because for some reason we think that moving around and all this stuff is going to help it. Right? Wrong. It's not. If a person can challenge themselves when they're uncomfortable to stay very still, right? Don't change any emotional expressions or anything else. They're going to feel their body saying, nope, don't do that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Right? Until you do one thing. Until you assure the body you understand that you're in pain.
So that's mind over matter. That's when you let your mind control your body and say, hold on a minute. I understand. You know, you're hurt, you're injured, you're whatever, but we're in control here. I mean, that's a mind over matter.
Now that's when you really, here's what that is, because your whole body is going to scream out, do something, right?
Right.
It's going to continue to do that until you tell your body, I got this.
Yeah.
So somehow you have to communicate with it. That's your soul overriding all the mechanisms in your body. If a person can do this, you know how when you're sleeping and you forget about your pain, you wake up, you're in pain again, right? If
course.
A person can do that, if they can do that with that feedback mechanism, they can essentially dampen their pain. They can stop the pain. They don't have to have pain. They have pain because they're not taking control over their body. And to walk purely spiritual, right? People can take control over that. They just have to learn to be good stewards over everything, every message, every signal, everything, and take command of it and start leading their flesh and not letting their flesh lead them. Anyway, I'm saying that, Pastor Paul, because we got another problem.
Okay, what is that?
Okay, what? Let's see, what time is it? Okay, since it's so late, I'll go ahead and say it. Over the last 2 months, there have been some investigations, right?
Okay, yeah.
These investigations have been looking at CCTV footage.
Okay, all the different closed caption. Okay, all of the surveillance cameras. Okay.
So let me give you the findings.
It's going
to be confusing at first. Too many people have been caught, right? Opening the door for somebody, pulling out a chair and really engaging with this person with paperwork and everything else for about an hour. Only to have this other person leave. The only problem is nobody ever came into the room and nobody ever sat out, right? Nobody.
What? Whoa. You're saying the camera sees two people, but you're saying there's really only one?
No, the camera doesn't see two people. The camera only saw one person.
Oh, it only saw one, even though there was actually two in there.
Supposedly by the people that were in the room, but it'd be okay, if it just happened to a couple people, you could say, yeah, you've been working too long, right?
Right.
That's not the case. In the last 2 months, the same incident has taken place over 28,000 times.
So is there two people in there or not? I mean,
no, it's just one person.
But the camera sees two?
The camera doesn't. No, it's just the camera sees one person, but the person in there
thinks
the
there's
people
another.
In the room.
Yeah.
The people in the room. If it's 4 people in the room, the 4 people swear it was another person in the room. If it's one person in the room, they swear it was another person in the room, that they were talking to somebody. You see them engaging with a person, right? You've even seen in hospitals, security guards telling a person to back up and there's nobody there.
Okay, so what's going on? I mean,
You've seen people
demons?
give interviews.
Is this different dimensions? What are we doing?
Well, this does unlock a can of worms, and it's not, it's not a joke. This is spiritual.
Okay.
Right? And I'm telling you something. When Europe recognizes with the USA that there is a dimensional, that they're calling it a dimensional problem.
Okay, here we go.
This is a recognized issue that is new as of late, right? Which is why you have these weird things like Florida. right? That was 3
Are
incidences
you talking
wrapped
about
into one, and
down there in
people ran away
Miami?
from. Yeah, that was just
Okay.
I believe. I believe, because here's the problem. Over the last week, you've had people that have not come out to say anything, right? They haven't, but keywords have popped up in certain programs. These keywords reveal too many people who have been out just doing average things, and their animals are spotting these 10-foot tall creatures that
Yeah.
look like glistening things beside trees, right?
Okay.
And the people have not spoken out about it. In other words, these were captured by surveillance techniques. So the people who encountered these things don't even know that their information has been had. Now, this is not some regional thing. This is all over the world. And as of I believe the last couple of weeks, the numbers that came back were somewhere around the 400,000 person mark. 400,000 people went through this. So it's becoming an occurrence that's happening every single day in large numbers, but not like people ever thought it would be,
So
right?
let's see if I got this right. So people are thinking there's people there when they're really not, or
That's the first
that's
problem.
the first problem. But then there's like this interdimensional engaging with something from an interdimensional world.
And that's a different problem. Same, but I think they're all in the same umbrella, right? It's
Okay.
all a spiritual issue.
Okay.
These things that people are saying, they same description, right? Uh, Same feelings.
Yeah.
Animals are quite hostile to them, right? About 10 feet tall, glistening,
Yeah.
very thin, right? Um, but
Yeah.
there no craft around. These things are just being spotted around trees, looking at people,
Right.
looking into people, this, that, and the other. The sheer number of people involved in seeing these things all around the globe, the exact same thing, is is uh, is just, anyway. There's something is happening. I believe it's a spiritual thing, right?
Yeah.
At one,
Do you believe it's demonic? Do you believe that these are demons that are
I
appearing
do,
in? Yeah.
I do,
Yeah.
I do. I do, because they're involved in an act of seducing. Right? People have fantasies, and many people want an alien invasion to be real. They do. Many people want some ET to show up and do this, and I hate to tell people, but Aleister Crowley,
Yep.
when he held his ceremony, right, in Area 51, and he had that ceremony with Lamb, that Lambda thing that came through. That was the first grade. That was documented in a long time. Uh, he kept doing it. Area 51 was his ground. He had ceremonies there, and it worked. And more of these things started showing up until the government said, nope, that's too many, which is why when this whole UAP thing popped out, right?
Yeah.
Uh, while people were looking for UFOs, that was not the actual story. The government was involved in chasing down all influences of any portals that were open on the earth, right? Any portals, things
Okay.
crawling in and out. So they were chasing the 10-foot beavers and all these different places that people have heard of. That's what they were engaged in. They know they're real. Right? They don't guess they're real.
No,
They
they
know they're
know.
real.
Yeah.
They know where all these areas are on the earth that are highly susceptible to people going missing and this, that, and the other. They know what that's all about. They know they operate by desire. They know that they're liars. They have disclosed the information, but people just want to read the theoretical parts where people are theorizing. They're not reading the actual reports. The reports state that soldiers, or for example, hundreds of soldiers per year die from UFO encounters, from traumatic brain injuries with these UFO encounters. That's
We because
disclosed.
in other words, and it is. Am I assuming I'm right here that we build a lot of military bases near portals? Is that
We
happening?
do.
We
We do.
do. We do because
We
we know
already
where
did.
they're at. Yeah, we've done this for years. Okay, I'm going to
You
say
have to cap them down. Yeah.
yeah.
Had to be
And
clamped down.
so is that why sometimes our military personnel encounter beings from another dimension?
Sometimes. Sometimes the mechanism for this, right? Now remember, Aleister Crowley he is the one who got hold of the Enochian uh, lexicon, learned it, and we're calling these things forward based upon the Enochian language, right? The original language of the angelic host. This guy was talking to those things in view of other people, notable people,
Yeah.
historical people and that was also disclosed. But for some reason, nobody wants to read those declassified documents.
Oh, no, they
Anyway,
don't. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the government has read them. I'm sure there's teams and groups of people who do. But boy, they don't want to let that stuff out because now you're going to a
they
level.
declassified it.
Yeah.
It's declassified.
They did?
And people they don't read, it's not interesting.
No. It
It's
should be.
declassified. It has been declassified. It's been released. There's no redaction to the point where you cannot see the names involved and what actually happened, right? Um, but it's not interesting until you get to the parts where you find out that essentially human desire is a key to a portal. So if humans believe in something collectively, right, there's nothing they cannot open.
So we can open up different portals of dimensions based on faith, belief.
That collective belief.
Yeah,
That's right.
and that's
You
that's
can.
believing on either good or bad. If you
That's right. You
right.
can authorize anything to come. Everything is waiting to come and assist you, whether that be good or evil.
Yeah,
It's
because
waiting.
well, okay, Crowley was doing this. We know Hitler was doing it too. In World War II, he was bringing off his men, and they would go into that castle, and they would be sacrificing and tormenting somebody on an altar, and they would literally pray to Lucifer to send them the game plan, basically the war plan.
Yeah.
They did this all the time. They communed with, and they're not the only world leaders that done stuff like
Real
that
society. Well, you have people right now,
right
right,
now.
who are not probably not what you think they are. That's a different story, but everybody's familiar with them. They just don't know who is who, right? See, that brings a spiritual component into play. And I'll say this: if anybody out there is playing around with their salvation, if you got to hang up in your salvation, this is not the year for that. In fact, this is a year for absolute sobriety, because when people start to see with open eyes, Pastor Paul, because what I'm saying right now is going to be common knowledge with everybody. But when it's common knowledge with everybody, how is the average person going to feel about themselves? Think about that. Because if they know the demonic realm is real, that man has been interacting with it, that they're all over the earth, they walk in human form. When people find this out and they find out there is above their heads, there's not a spot in the sky that's not covered by something you can't really see, but it's there. The influence is there. And they wait. When people find out about this, then what? What are they going to do when it's real to them? What are
Well,
they going to
some of
do?
them are
And
going
if
to
they,
entertain them. Some of them are going to call them down and entertain the dark side, and others are going to talk to the angelic hosts that are on the good side. I mean, people are going to learn that they can interact with the spiritual world, and they already know. Some know, but you're saying it will become such common practice that
they're going to have,
you know.
they're, it's just not going to vote. We know the kingdom of the beast is rising, right?
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you something. Anybody who has ever looked into the eyes of darkness for real, um, they know their life can never go back to normal. They'll never have innocent eyes again. But the rest of the folks, the average person is going to die by seeing it. And if their life is not right, they're going to die and be condemned, um, because they chose death and to be an agent of death rather than life. A Christian who's been toying around with the salvation, Pastor Paul, they're going to say, I wish I would have gotten serious about the Lord,
Right.
4 years ago. But this is that time right now for them to get serious, because what have they got to lose? They got nothing else to lose. Everything is starting to rear down, and things are really,
Well,
things are really starting to manifest here.
Jesus said men's hearts would fail them for fear,
Oh, and they will.
for looking after those things coming upon the earth. Let me ask you a question. With Planet X on the way, and this webinar we got tomorrow night, with this energy, is there also a connection with the dark? I mean, does the as this thing goes by, and it's not just, we can see the science of it, the shaking up the sun and the earth and all the plants, but is there also a spiritual shaking
You
taking
better believe it.
place?
In every single case, in every single case, historically, when things like that were spotted,
Yeah.
uh, everybody had a brand new way they looked at life. In other words, they said that God was no longer a mystery after that, right? Now, here's what happens when a strong magnetic force uh, is encountered. People are familiar with nightmares. Running in a nightmare, you can't go anywhere. Loud noises, possibly all sorts of stuff going on inside of a nightmare. That feeling of dread. Do you know that can be induced on anybody through magnetic field lines, patterns, right? Do you know that, right? That anybody can be put in that state. Well, it is documented that people were frozen in that state for months
All right, explain
following the
that.
passage of this thing. The
Explain
same
that one.
cosmonauts, well, it's kind of like the cosmonauts who they went up into space. They did not replicate the magnetosphere of the Earth strong enough to protect the brains of the cosmonauts. And they when they came back, they were
Like
animals.
mush. Yeah, they were like mush, and they were uncontrollable. They were like
They were
wild.
killing each other. And
Yeah.
but these guys, they were, you could tell they just from the reports, they were horrified. Even some of our astronauts that went up in space, a couple of those were horrified. Even some of the people that went to high altitude flights without going into space, but were in fact at a time of weakness of the magnetosphere, horrified.
Is it
Having that
because, well, let me
nightmare.
ask you, is it because we're going into a level of the heavens that, Satan is the prince of the power of the air? Or is it because we're getting into his territory and we're starting
Well,
to see
here's
things?
here's why I say no, is because the same thing happened underground.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
they had a protected. They had some experiments where they did this, and in a lab, right? They effectively nullified
Okay.
the magnetic, forces, natural forces of the Earth, and the same exact thing happened. So here's what essentially happens. As it turns out, the magnetosphere is more than what we think. It is, in fact, a protective shield
Yeah.
for more
Okay.
than what we could possibly imagine. If that protective field is gone, there's no division between the spiritual realm of what you can perceive, right?
Yeah.
You'll be able to perceive the spirit realm. Unfortunately, the closest we have things all over the place. Just remember when Daniel prayed and Gabriel came down, he was withstood by the prince of Persia. And that
Yep.
word prince of Persia is chief prince, which implies he had to go through countless devils to get to Daniel before he got here, and only Michael could break him through. And so we're
Yep.
surrounded by a bubble of demonic entities of a realm we couldn't scarcely understand. The same realm that those at CERN know about, and they're trying to go around it, right? Because
How
if
do they do
there's
that?
nobody can survive to do that. Pastor, they have all the ancient knowledge. That's why Shiva's right there. They
Yeah.
have all the ancient knowledge. They
It's
have
not
all
about,
the
so it's not
incantations.
just about science, it's
No, it is
spiritual. Oh,
not. It
okay.
is not. They have weekly rituals at that place. They know about the incantations. They have special people there who do the chant thing and all this, that, and the other. Because when they witnessed portals being opened by a rabbi, that did it, right? Then they knew it was real. A rabbi chanted Solomon's prayer, right? And first the winds picked up, hurricane force winds picked up out of nowhere, and then it got extremely bright. And everybody, he was still, doing his thing. He had obviously done this before. All the data was captured, and everything else. It blew people's minds. And then the brightness, it looked like the sun lit up right there in front of them, all around them, right? So they know portals are real. They also saw
Yeah.
stuff going in and out of that thing, right? And when they found out about that, they seek to control it, right?
Yeah.
So look at CERN. CERN is essentially, it is a particle weapon, right?
Yep.
But a particle weapon they can analyze based on anything they hit. So when they find out the right frequency, you could say, the right set of properties to utilize, right? Then they can peacefully open up these portals. They can peacefully do things with these portals, right?
Yeah,
Which
okay.
means, because if you open up a portal, people are going to die, period. You don't open up a portal peacefully. People are going to die. Something's coming out,
Well,
or somebody's going in. Something's
we
happening. It's
got
going to be
we've got
unfortunate.
this bottomless pit in the Bible in Revelation 9:11, where this angel comes down. God sends the angel down with a key or a clue or an understanding of how to open the abyss, open another dimension of
Yep.
darkness.
Yep.
Is CERN trying to do this, or is this where the area is, or is it? Um, I mean, are they involved in trying to
Other
make
than the Dead Sea,
the Dead
right
Sea?
there in Genoa, in Geneva, Switzerland, right?
Yeah, in Davos. Yeah.
That is the closest place to an ancient happening you can get on the face of the earth. So let's just say it's very close to an active source. It's very close to an active source. And there are 3 temples in that place too, underneath the ground. And CERN is
Wow.
smack dab in the middle of them. It's
Wow.
right in the middle of those temples. Uh, so, they're because how much good, it's so funny, right? They have CERN, all these experiments. Where's the increased quality of life at? Where's that at? We're not going to see it, right? Obviously. And the science that they're finding out, what science are they actually accumulating that's going to help anybody? They've already perfected, right, what they needed to perfect. Now they're seeking to go a little deeper,
Yeah.
right? That they need a key. Key, I believe in this case, is knowledge. They need the right knowledge, the right sequence to go a bit deeper. Once they do this, Paul, here's what it promises. If you can ever extract, without everybody dying, something from that realm other than anti-electrons and anti-protons, like they've been doing the small things, small scale. If you can ever extract anything from that realm, here's how it works. And this is science. 1 inch, let's say 1 millimeter, about the size of a BB, right? A particle that size is the equivalent of a particle about a mile in diameter here in this realm. That's why quantum mechanics and quantum
Okay.
computing is so, people can't leave it alone. Because when you start messing around with qubits and all this, that, and the other, memory storage or extraction in that realm, right,
Well,
is 1,000 times
yeah.
more powerful than in this realm. Right. This is the product realm. That is the control realm. And what they're looking for are the pieces, right, that they can absolutely just, dominate even more things with. Well, I personally, I don't believe they're going to achieve that. Something else is going on because they are doing rituals. Everybody sees
Yeah.
Shiva,
Yeah.
right? Everybody sees that. There's another name for Shiva. Shiva is just a name that the Devos gave this entity, that part of the land, but it essentially has the same characteristics as Lucifer.
Yeah.
Same characteristics as Lucifer, right? Which is why, well,
Now
anyway,
that
that's another story.
land in Davos, that whole area, there was already a lot of ancient pagan worship that
Underneath
went on.
ground, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, before they ever decided
oh yeah, yeah,
to build CERNs, and that's why they decided to build CERN machine there. And oh, by the
right
way,
there,
that's
yeah.
not the only CERN on the Earth.
No,
There
there are
are,
lots,
yeah,
there are
lots.
lots,
And are they
and China has one
okay?
that works with that one.
Are they doing the same thing in
Yes,
all
they are.
those? Okay.
When CERN has an experiment, all that data goes through all the networks, every single last one of them, right?
Okay.
In fact, it's strange because men will have the wars, disagreements, and everything else, but when they start working on this spiritual stuff, right? And I'm going to say spiritual because we should know that by now. You don't have a ceremony, people dancing and hopping and priests showing up, and all these famous folks who are high level individuals. They're the only ones that go down to a certain chamber in there. They got a prayer chamber in there and all
Yeah.
this crazy stuff. Anyway, all of them, when they share all that data, because this will affect the world, right? Just like China right now is digging another hole in the earth, one of the deepest holes ever, which they shouldn't do. And I'm just shocked
Why?
that nobody's talking about this. Well,
Why?
Russia dug one, right? Now they want
Why?
to dig one
Are they
because
trying to?
they're saying they want to extract thermal energy. right?
Okay.
That's what they're
Okay.
saying. So a little 7-inch diameter hole going all the way down to the core of the Earth. Boy, these people. Anyway,
So they're trying
they're
to
doing it.
extract
They're
energy,
doing
but
it.
really, what energy are they?
Oh, they're doing it. Yeah,
What
right,
energy are
right,
you going
right.
to pull out of there? I mean, it may be.
Honestly,
Yeah.
honestly, they've done this through fracking so many different times, and they know it's a barrier that you cannot go beyond. No metal, no diamond, no
Wow.
anything can go beyond that barrier. I have a feeling of what they're doing. I have a feeling. To understand that is to understand what Russia encountered, not through a hole in the ground, but through their military back in the 30s. If people can understand the 30s and the 80s, if they can understand that, what they found underground, what they actually poured concrete in, right? The
Yeah.
whole thing they poured concrete in, and they brought every gifted person they could to that area to interpret things, and it was probably not a good idea. Anyway,
Mike, let's ask just for a few moments the situation in Texas, and we'll be careful with this conversation. But obviously, we have 27 governors that are now backing Governor Abbott, and there's a push and pull going on here between Border Patrol, federal jurisdiction, and state jurisdiction, and National Guard. Is this? Have we crossed into a very dangerous
sure we
situation?
have. Texas is the beginning of the fracture.
Okay.
They are the beginning. So Texas will eventually they'll eventually break apart with support uh, from federalized decisions. They're going to have to. They're going to have to do this under their own steam. But when they do this, because who's going to order the death of a lot of Americans simply because you have a state that desires to do its own thing? You can't do that.
Nobody's going to do that. Right.
Based on how the U.S. is constructed, that's the very thing you don't do, right?
Right.
You don't do that. And every single state has the right to impose what they need to. The federal government was never put into place to run the states, but to assist the states.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of young people, they don't understand. That's the difference between a republic, right? And some of these other
And what
things
they
that they have
call
out there.
democracy. Right. A
All right,
republic is
democracy.
totally different.
That's right. They're trying to say that America is not a democracy. America practices democracy, right? Democracy is the way that you do things. It is not. We are not a democracy because that's
No, we're not.
that
We're a
totalitarianism
republic.
stuff.
We're a
That's right.
republic.
We are a republic, and that's part of the big misunderstanding in a lot of people's minds. A lot
Yeah.
of young people, they don't know that, Paul, right?
Yeah, they don't.
And you have like the Republicans, they know this is a republic, and the government stands to assist the states, not to run them. Right. And in fact, it was the government that borrowed money from private industry to help keep it going at a certain time so it could assist other states in the further development of the U.S. But that knowledge has been lost. It's been twisted, and people get a hold of that, start doing everything. But by law, every single state has a right to undo everything they just did. They have a right to do that. They have a right to pull away. And so eventually it's going to come down to the Supreme Court making a couple of decisions,
Yeah.
which will ultimately leave that in the hands of Texas. And they're going to be the first to actually fully do it because how can they not? They have a border and they're having the issues from that border.
Right. This
Right?
is the biggest problem. They got the biggest
That's right.
problem of everybody.
That's
So, I
right.
mean,
That's right. That's what Fort Hood, Texas is there for, right? And so they're going to have to implement something to shut that down. But it's just incredible how much knowledge has been lost, so much so that you
yeah.
essentially have tyrants that come in and try to instill within people, hey, this is different than uh, this is this way, and it isn't. Right? It isn't. Half the stuff that people are engaged in is in fact illegal based on our Constitution,
Yeah,
Bill of Rights.
right.
It's illegal,
Yep.
but here we are. Those things have to be. I think those things have to be defined. But there's some people who don't want it defined. They want this to be a democracy.
Well, one thing's for sure. Texas, let's say, and Florida, there's two states for sure, and there's others that the amount of money they send in to the federal government and the amount of money they get back, they send way more in than they get back. And part of the reason is they're paying the bill for California, New York, and Illinois.
Well,
At
and,
some
and
point, Texas could say they're the fifth largest economy in the world. Texas could say, you know what? We're better off just being by ourselves. We can use
oh, they
the
will.
excess money. We'll build our own
They will.
army, and we're the fifth largest economy.
They
Matter of fact,
will.
we'll be better off. At
They
some
will.
point, that's going to hit their mind, right?
I think they will, and I think that's going to happen fairly quickly. I do. Listen, if nobody understands by now, I don't want to say too much because
Right.
if you start talking about one specific subject,
Yeah, I don't want to say it. No.
the wrong people will hear it.
Yeah.
It'll ignite a firestorm. They'll begin to fight against it. Right? You don't
Yeah.
want that to happen.
No.
Anyway, but if nobody can notice by now, just take note. Corporations moved to Texas from California.
Yeah.
Corporations. We're talking about mega trillion-dollar corporations.
Yep.
Now, why did they move to Texas? Probably because they know about trending or what's in the future. And they don't want to be in California when the future comes. They want to be in Texas. So all of your industry,
Your tech,
of which this country runs from, right,
your big
moved
tech,
to Texas.
big
That's
tech
right.
is leaving
That's right.
Seattle
Because
and
they know
headed
what's
to
coming.
Texas. Yep.
That's right. So if they know what's in Texas, if all that stuff is in Texas, Texas breaks away. Who can say anything? Who can say anything? That'll be the power center of the USA right there. That'll be it. That'll be it.
Well, we'll pray that we'll watch first of all how this develops, and I think it does make a difference who's the president of the United States during that time because one may heal the wounds and the other may not, may cause the wounds, and so we'll just see. God's in control of this, but there's definitely a shift going on, not only in America but probably around the world.
Yeah.
In these areas.
And change, with all change, Pastor, you're going to have resistance.
Yep.
You're going to have pain. You're going to have pain. But the ultimate outcome is the Lord's. And he has declared what he has declared. And, I still believe that even in prophecy, America is part of the solution.
I do too.
And part of the Lord's hand in this earth, right there at the very end. I do believe that. Believe that.
I do too.
Yeah.
And he won't. We're established on the Word of God, and there's a lot of people here in this country that love the Lord, and so we'll just keep them close. Mike, this is unbelievable. These portals we opened up everywhere and everything else, and then this ties to this webinar that we're having. I mean, you talked about some unbelievable stuff. You brought up a lot of ancient stuff and other stuff in that webinar. People might. Oh, and by the way, you called for Gil Brazard and BP Earthwatch. They showed up.
That's right. That's right.
And throw in a stand day on.
That's right.
Yeah, it's really good. So.
That's right. Those guys, they're motivated spiritually to do what they do. Right?
Yes,
people
they are.
Anybody can criticize what a person does, right? But I would remind people when folks are driven by passion, because they have a sincerity towards humanity. They're concerned about people. And when they're driven like this, and it's spiritual, and they believe in the Lord, then you might want to just stop, listen, pay attention, and because all information, right? All information is all of it is not going to be as accurate as we would like, but I'll tell you something. If your ears are open, it's got to be usable, right? It's got to be usable. And the Lord does not give anybody the anointing or spirit to go forward, anything just to kill their own futures and careers. He didn't do that without it having great meaning, right? So if they're driven by that passion, instead of us bickering and fighting, what tent is Mars and on the green side next to this, that, and the other, all these little details. If we would listen, I believe collectively we have an entire picture. Individually, we do not, but collectively we have an entire picture. So it takes all of us, not just one of us, it takes all of us and what the Lord gave us, right? Somebody, Pastor, I believe you have a good gift of putting things together from different sources. I do believe that. And a truth is extracted from a collection, right? Of people that the Lord sends. It is. Because if for any one person to have the entire truth would be overwhelming. That person wouldn't be able to wake up in the morning, right? And I do believe that.
There's the scripture says there's safety in a multitude of counselors.
Yeah.
So, you bring folks together that, like you said, that are passionate, love the Lord, and have some expertise. Then between the collective the collective group, a lot of golden nuggets are laying there. And
That's right.
the Lord will lead and guide you, and it'll help everyone understand. So I think it's a good thing to do, and we're going to keep doing it because it's making a difference in lives. And we thank you, Mike, for all the effort you put in, and I don't know how in the world you do all these different categories. It's incredible to me, but it's amazing at the same time, and it's also worthwhile because there's as you talk a lot about some of these things, scriptures go just wild in my spirit because I'm thinking, oh, that's there. Oh yeah, that's in there. It's because it's the truth. That's why it's in the Bible as well. So thank you,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Well, Pastor Paul, if it, when it helps, look, I've been unprepared for things before in my life. I desire that upon no one, right?
Yeah,
Because I know what it's like not to be prepared and to have nobody told you a thing and it costs you big time. I know what that's like. I desire people have assistance and that they be aware, of the truth. So
yep,
I can't really sugarcoat it. And I know it'll always sound wacky until it does not.
yeah.
So there we are.
Until it's fully revealed, then you're like, oh
That's
man,
right.
that's what he meant by
That's
that.
right.
Yeah. Mike, thank you so much. I look forward to everybody hearing what you said, you're part of this webinar tomorrow night. Everybody make sure you don't miss that. And Mike, thank you for being with us again tonight.
Pastor Paul, it's always an honor. God bless you, brother.
The honor's mine, believe me. God bless you, brother. Amen.
All right.
Amen.
All right.
Mike from around the world, folks. Yeah, we opened some portals here tonight, which is good. And we also found out some things that we already knew. We just didn't think about it. Why? How come the angel couldn't get to Daniel? Because he was fighting the prince of Persia. Where? In the air, above the earth, there in that area where Satan has been granted dominion only because God let him have it, not because he earned it. And in these last days, the devil will do everything in his power to stop you and me and to deceive you and me, ultimately to our own demise if we let him. But that's why we're going to listen to Jesus. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the way. Yeah, Mount Hermon is where those angels fell. Of course, that's where they landed. And so if you're listening right now and you're not saved, I'll play a song. I really believe there's people who are saying, wow, I've been just coasting. I have not been serious about God or about my life or my soul, and I need to come clean.